Good morning, Market Chameleons. Everyone join us for the first time. I am here in Florida today, and there's the best man in the world, the King Chameleon, Dimitri
Thanks.
Pargamonic. How you doing, everybody? How you doing,
Hey,
D?
well, how's it going?
Good. So for those who are new to the show, I am actually down visiting my brother and mom in Florida this weekend with a couple of my kids. We decided to give the show a try from a remote location. Whoa, and there's a problem. First problem.
What is you are you there, Will?
Yeah, he is the best man in the world, by the way. Sorry about that. We run YouTube with our Zoom, so I'm on a laptop. So some of the features that I have available to me on my desktop are not here. So I had that clicked on. So I apologize about that, D, but we'll start with the disclaimer. It is up there for everyone to see.
Yep. So good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not registered investment advisors. We're not a broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing our ideas. If you need professional advice, call your registered investment advisor or call your broker. That's what they're there for, to give you advice, provide you with guidance. There's the disclaimer.
Awesome.
And with that, let me share my screen. By the way, I love that background with the palm trees and the swimming pool, and that's great.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a lot of people in the chameleon community who live in Florida, and it's a nice place to live for sure.
Yeah. So I'm jealous, and it's cold over here in Philadelphia. I can tell you, it's pretty cold. It definitely feels like winter down here.
Yeah, well, it feels like a nice day in Margate in the middle of summer down here. So it is nice in Florida.
Yeah. And we had, right before we came on the show, I know your brother is visiting down there, and we had a nice conversation about blockchain technology. I know your brother is very involved in the NFT space and very knowledgeable, talking about that. Maybe one day we'll have him on the show just to give us insights, because I think a lot of people will benefit from that, especially not just seeing cryptocurrency prices moving around, but really it's the technology and the use cases and what it could mean for the future. Because right now, kind of, the technology is very early in the stage where it's not yet ready for use cases, or mass use around the world. But if it does develop and the way it looks like it could be a really big game changer, just as big as the internet. And that's what people are looking at, that this could be like Web 3.0.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and one of the use cases is going on right now, right? People who want to get out of Russia or get out of the Ukraine, it's hard to move assets, right?
Right.
And if you have crypto on a wallet, you can basically leave and re-access it from anywhere. So
right.
Yeah, it's a technology that can allow you to, at the very least, move assets in a very scary situation where you're basically able to flee with the clothes on your back. Right.
And when people think digital assets, a lot of people think it's just currency. It means it's a Bitcoin, it's a a Doge coin. But a digital asset in ownership, right now, that's how they're developing it. But you could almost put anything on it. What's a digital asset? It could be music, it could be a movie, it could be videos, it could be an internet website, it could be your own data, that your search history, you could own that as an asset, and you could charge people to access it who want to advertise. So those are things that, only a few cases that I'm just naming, but once you develop that technology, who knows, it's up to people's imagination, what else you could do with that blockchain. But very interesting. Just wanted to kind of mention it since we were talking about it.
Yeah, and for some of the people who may remember, my brother was one of the, he really kind of pushed D and I to get involved with doing a show, and he helped us for a couple years at the start, and he is heavily involved in both those and NFTs. So I did put a poll out there, D.
Yeah.
see if the Chameleon would like us to have a discussion at some point about crypto with him, and I'll let you know at the end of the show what comes back.
Okay. Awesome.
With that, what are you
All right.
seeing in the pre-market, my friend?
So let's take a look. I think what we'll do today is we'll start with the pre-market report, see what's going on. We're open to questions. So anybody, if you guys have a question, it could be Market Chameleon tool, data analytics. You want to talk about maybe strategies that you've been using and are working for you. You could come on a show and share it with us. If you did something or saw something that's unusual and you want to come on the show and discuss that, a couple ways to do it. You could put your question on the live chat on YouTube. Will's monitoring them. He'll read it back to me. Or we also put out a link there to Zoom. So if you click on that link, it takes you over to Zoom. Click on raise your hand. This way, you could ask your question live. We'll turn you on. You could ask your question live. You don't have to turn on your video camera, but you could ask the question directly. So while we're waiting for any questions to queue up, let's take a look at the pre-market report. Maybe then we'll discuss a little bit about volatility. And if questions come in, we'll get to those first. So this is the pre-market report. Here, stocks that are trading in a pre-market hours, right? Stocks trading in pre-market hours. You can find it here. We got the most active stocks, biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. We have 51 stocks on our percentage gainers list, 163 stocks on the percentage decliners list. So from that perspective, we're looking like a more bearish bias at the open. Let's filter out this list and see what's going on in the S&P 500 stocks if we see a similar situation. I'm going to use, coming up here, we have filters that control the stocks that appear on this list. And using this filter in ETF, I'm going to drop it down. I'm going to select SPY. This is the SPY, the ETF with the S&P 500 holdings. And by selecting that here, now this list is filtered by SPY holdings. And here we see 4 on the percentage gainers list. We got 37 on the percentage decliners list. So yes, it's still, we're looking with bearish bias at the open. And let me see, one thing I did want to mention, because I get emails about pre-market movers, stocks trading in pre-market hours. And I think some people think that this is like a, it's like our rating system or a prediction where the stock is going to go during the day, and we're making some kind of like a prediction, but that's not, these are actual trades happening in pre-market hours. So stocks, they can trade pre-markets, then you got the regular session, 9:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern, and then they could trade after hours. And these are actual transactions. These are people who, are buying and selling in outside the regular hours. You have different rules in place, and there are certain trader types, let's call them, that cannot trade in the pre-market hours or after hours. And you probably need special permission. So like a mutual fund will not trade in the pre-market hours or after hours. The institutional VWAP orders, those things don't happen in pre-market hours or after hours. They're during regular hours. But when we look at it and we see, here's a stock trading $20.59, up 15.7% on 73,000 shares. That, we didn't make that up. That's what's happening in the pre-market hours. Those are trades. If I click on it, and this brings up more information here. Here's the pre-market chart, and I could see down here minute to minute. Here at 8:53, there was one trade, 100 shares traded at $20.78. Right, and that's up 19 cents from the previous minute, previous minute that traded. At 8:49, there were 2 total trades in that minute. A total of 1,000 shares traded for a VWAP, which is a volume weighted average price of $20.59. So I get these questions and maybe people don't understand, or they don't understand like what pre-market trading means, but these are actual trades, right? These aren't like numbers that we're making up and showing to you, or predictions. It's not like that. These are actual trades. These are um, people buying and selling in a pre-market hours, prices, volume. These are all happening, um, and we're just displaying that data and information. So that's important to know, because sometimes, I get emails like people would say, well, what if something is up in the pre-market hours? Isn't it too late because it opens up? Like, well, yeah, that's how it works, right? That's what's happening. You're looking at the data, and we're just displaying what's actually happening in the trading in those stocks. So having, yeah.
You did have a question pop up on YouTube, and he's a new participant, and first question I've seen asked, and first time I've seen his name, so I just wanted to get to it. He says, how can I look at his historical performance of a ticker actual versus implied move?
Okay, so let's take a look at that. So I'll use the SPY. So when we look, so I went here to SPY, the S&P 500, I did a search, and I'm gonna come down here. I think it's under volatility. Under volatility, implied moves. And when we talk about implied moves, what does that mean, an implied move? An implied move is coming from option prices, right? So options, if you look at a straddle, right? Let's say you're looking at buying a call and buying a put at the money. So here, actually, I'll go to the options chain first. So here's SPY, right? So this expires today. And if we said, okay, let's say SPY closed at 436. So if I'm buying this call, right, and I'm buying this put, right? So here I queued it up. Buying the 436 call, 235. Buying the 436 put, 299. I'm going to load that strategy. And we know there's only one day to go, right? So they're in this situation, they expire today. So yesterday's closing price of this straddle is, the midpoint's $5.31, but let's say we bought it $5.34. So what does that mean? For the buyer, the stock has to move by $5.34 in either direction. So you could see here, right? In either direction, it has to move by $5.34 to cover the cost of both those options, right? To break even. Above that, they're making money. So here you could see that if it moves up, well, this put will expire worthless if it moves up above 436. But the call has to offset that and the premium you paid for the call. So if you paid $5.34 for both, then the stock price has to move by $5.34 above this 436 price for you to break even. Above that, you're making money. For the seller, it's the opposite. The break even is also 534, but it has to move less. So for the buyer and the seller, right, the break even for both of them is $5.34 away from 436. So that's what we say, that the market is implying a fair value of a move of $5.34, right? Because that's where both of them are breaking even. And then we could convert that to a percentage move, right? So we could take this, what's 534, we could convert it to a percentage move. So I'm just going to come down here. Here's the activity. So you could see here, 1.2%. So that's the implied move, 1.2%, because that's where the buyers and sellers are meeting, right? That's where they think that this is a fair value. Of course, you have an option that's, say, 4 days to go, 6 days to go. The implied move is different because that is considering a straddle with 6 days to go. That so as you go out further and further in time, the straddles get more expensive. Now, with using the Black-Scholes model, we could take these options and we could say, well, if we convert it to an implied volatility, we could, using the Black-Scholes model, we could say, what is the average daily move, right? So even though in the next 16 days, the implied move is 5.2%, we could take it and say, based on the implied volatility, what is the average daily move up and down, right? Because it has 16 days to go. So hopefully that's clear, and that's what this implied move is. It's an average daily move here relative to the actual daily move, right? So this bar here, at the end of the day, we take a snapshot of the straddle that's the nearest term straddle, and then we say, what is the average daily implied move? And then the next day, right, that's where it closed. The next day we compare it to the actual move. So that's how this looks. So, the day before yesterday, the average daily move implied was 1.5%, but it moved down 0.5%. So you could see it didn't move by the end of the day, did not move enough. And this is kind of going back in history on a chart, showing you how the options predicted the average daily move versus the actual move day to day. All right, so that's what we're seeing here. And here you could kind of go back, look at the numbers here, and we see that the last 20 trading days, so it's a month's worth of trading days, 20 trading days, 12 of those days, 12 of the days in here, the stock moved inside the predicted range, right? So it moved inside the predicted range. 8 of those days, it moved outside. So for example, here, February 25th, the market SPY was up 2.2%. But the day before that, the options were looking at a 1.7% move. So this is kind of where you could see a visual chart. And that's the methodology we use, right? So the methodology is we're looking at average daily implied moves derived from the option prices versus the actual daily move. And you could kind of
was awesome, D. Yep. Rick said thanks. He's got it. New user and very appreciative. We did get a question from Ahmed, and we were going to get to him today, but he's like, okay, Will, D has so many different features on his screen that I'm seeing that I don't have. Do you know when we're going to get them and what they are? I don't know what he was looking at. He didn't get into specifics, but I know yesterday you did mention you had some surprise treats for him.
Yeah.
Some things that you were going to bring up.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, this feature this feature is available. So right now I'm on something that is available. Some of these features that we're going over are for premium. Some are for not premium, right? So I'm just kind of moving around because I have, access to all. So I'm just showing you guys what's available. Some of them will be for premium users. Some of them will be available to everybody. So it's a mix.
And so everyone has to remember too, we've talked about this a lot, everything that's in development and some of the things that are in development never come to fruition because they just aren't working the way we have planned. We're not seeing the results we want to see. And correct me if I'm wrong with what I'm saying, D. So we've talked about it numerous times. So on D's computer, you will see things that, he's basically testing and working through.
Right. So we're testing and working through, and there's always for example, I know we told you, about ETF inflows and outflows, right? And we have it, and a lot of our data, we have to purchase data, right? We don't make up the data. The data doesn't, we don't own, the data coming from the exchanges or ETF. We purchase data, and then what we do is we bring it into our database and we start our own cleanup process. And there's always an internal cleanup process. And sometimes we find issues and bugs. And for example, right now with the ETF inflows and outflows, we're working with our vendor because, we started looking at the data and we're like, well, it's not matching up here and here with like what the, what's being reported by the issuers, the ETF issuers. So some of that data they're fixing, we do our own validation. Some of the inflows and outflows we see, are coming in later than we want them to. So, some of them we're getting 7 a.m. in the morning, some are like 9:30 a.m., some of them are like at 11 a.m. And so we're working with our vendors saying, no, get them all as early as possible, right? So they're working with us, and while we're doing that, because we're working with the data, with the vendors and stuff, we just hold it back because if we release it, there's going to be a bunch of issues anyway, so while we're doing those types of things, that's why you might see things on my screen that you're not, because these are not ready. Like some of these are not, they're not ready and they're in test mode. And we try to get them as ready when we feel that we've resolved all the bugs and issues that we could find. Even, once we publish it, we have thousands of people, in the course of a day using it, they then start reporting bugs that we have to fix as well. So we're trying to, and we know we already expect that. So we try to fix as many as we can be. So when we publish, we don't have any known existing bugs out there. So that's why you're seeing, but the things that, certainly Tuesday, I've already committed to doing a webinar on some new reports on earnings. So we're working hard to release those, and those we will have to release them next week.
Now that webinar I just put into the YouTube chat, it's how to trade an earnings move, and Dimitri's going to be showing new features of that coming on Tuesday. That's Tuesday at 2. And remember, you need to register. We don't control this webinar. This is an interactive broker webinar. So you have to register to get access for it, even if you can't attend the live session at 2. They will email you a copy. So just be aware of that.
Right. And those will be new features right now that aren't available yet, but I'm going to be pushing them out maybe this weekend or Monday, but I have to get them out because I'm doing the webinar on it. Another thing we're working on, we're going to be improving the order flow sentiment dramatically, so you guys are going to see like big differences with that. And that's going to be, and I already committed that I'm doing another webinar in a month with Interactive Brokers. So I know within a month, it's definitely going to be pushed out. But I'm going to try to do it earlier so we could start discussing it. But from what I'm seeing, it looks really good to me. A huge improvement on what we have now, because we've got a lot more benchmarks, analytics, snapshots, time, and we're breaking it down, by trader type, the imbalances, the progression of the order flow throughout the day. I think you guys are going to really like it, actually. I don't even have it right now to show you because it's still like in this, test mode. Like the developers, I could see they're working on it right now, even in the morning. So I can't even give you guys a sneak peek yet, but that will come out. And I think that it's good. It's definitely going to be something you probably haven't seen anywhere else. Okay, the way we're going to break down the order flow. So I'm pretty excited about it, and we're wiring it up. That will be coming in within the next month. ETFs, like I said, we're getting a lot of ETF data, but we're in that cleanup process, and unfortunately, sometimes when you're dealing with data and integration with vendors and stuff, it slows things down because we're not in complete control of some of the stuff. So that's a couple things. The alert system we're still working on. Also, I'm going to be breaking down order flow in the stocks. So that's in the process, where in the stocks, you've got a lot of interesting information when you break down the volume. I can't get into it all right now, but you guys are going to get a very good volume profile coming up that you haven't seen probably anywhere else, including, we're going to detect program trades, high frequency bursts, volume bursts, and direction, breakdown of block trades, breakdown of the opening crosses, closing crosses, the contingent trades, the lit markets versus the dark pool trades. So a lot more there to break down. We're really like slicing and dicing and looking at ticks and how things trade, the speed of the trades, the volume of the trades, how unusual is it. We're going to be connecting a lot of data. So that also is coming probably after the other things that I mentioned. So we're right up at 9:26, Will. Just giving, oh, you're on mute. Will, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I got a full family in the house now, so I muted.
No problem.
Good stuff going on, D. We did have a funny comment by Rob, somewhat joking, that there's so many videos and webinars. It's so much his head is going to explode. I'm assuming that's a good explosion. But and we try to help everyone out and try to make the most of our time, this 30 minutes every day where people can ask questions and kind of get a feel for the market. I'll tell you one thing. We were talking about this RSX Russian ETF. You gave a great explanation. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, about how it's moved so drastically from its fair value. I mean, that finally hit the mainstream media, that something is.
Oh, did it?
It was in the Financial Times, I think, late yesterday. So on that one, we were ahead of the curve. But the whole risk profile of ownership in companies has changed, right? When governments can come in and say, you don't own that business, right? You don't know. I mean, whether you're, and listen, I hate the fact that Russia invaded Ukraine. I hate it. But the ownership of, and I don't disagree that the oligarchs probably got their assets through, means which weren't the best, but, they're seizing things without rule of law, it seems like to me. And, these are public companies that
you would expect that it has to be some kind of a procedure or process of getting an asset, like, you got to go through court or maybe freeze it, but not seize it without going through a process. That if you at least we imagine, okay, maybe freeze it, but not seize it and just take it away without going through a process, going through courts, getting having some evidence that okay, guilty, not guilty, but you would imagine that would happen.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at one particular company, an oil producer, Lukoil. They've seized their assets, and in our area locally, New Jersey's trying to shut down all the Lukoil gas stations. Now, these are small independent franchisees who are trying to make, I don't know, somewhat of a living, right? Selling oil and, goods out of the store. It's like, it's not, so they were not responsible for the Russian invasion, and they're, employing local, people, and, it's a really interesting situation. And I believe.
I think it would be better if they did it through the court system, right? Like, you have to go and doing it through the courts instead of just really quickly take it. But I agree. Yeah.
Well, with that, it is 9:30. Thanks so much, D. I did put the link to both Dimitri's IBKR webinar, which is Tuesday at 2, and also Felix Frey is going to be talking about how he's scanning for opportunities in this Ukrainian crisis, and that is Monday at 6. Both those links are in the YouTube Dima, great job. I'm about to go enjoy the beach with the family. You have a great day, my friend. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. Stay safe out there. Have a great trading day, and we hope to see you guys on Monday.
Trade in peace, chameleons. Bye.